Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Hats podcast. I'm D Royal,
I'm H. Cannon.
and we are the Talking Hats. You can find us on Gmail at the Talking Hats podcast at gmail.com, on Twitter at the Talking Hats, and our phone number, if you ever want to call us, is 720. Just a second. This is don't mind me. I'm just a little unprepared here this morning. It's quite early out here in Colorado. Our phone number, if you ever want to reach out to us during the show, is 720-735-2342. And our first topic here, we're going to jump right into it. We've got a Wizards game recap, and we're going to talk a little Denver Nuggets basketball as well. I'll let Harish take over here with the Denver Nuggets, with the Washington Wizards.
It's all good.
Pardon me, guys. I've got my coffee here. It's early.
It's way early over there in Denver. It's hard because trying to coordinate the time difference. So
Yeah.
But we finally got a time that worked for us. So
Right.
We do apologize for a little bit of the early snafus. This is also our second podcast. So let's give
Early
us a break.
morning jitters. Early morning
Give us
jitters.
a
You know
break
what
a little
happens?
bit. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. So I want to start by saying even the Wizards, the last two games, they played down to their competition. They didn't play up, they played down.
Good grief.
And I also believe that they got tired after the Indiana game because that went to double overtime. If a lot of people who don't kind of watch sports, like Dale and I, how we kind of look at it and how that fatigue does play a factor, but it's also, they're a team that's gelling. So when they start gelling more and more, you'll see the game what they played against Memphis. They just came out and just blew the doors open. I mean, they played together like it was a total team effort. Beal doesn't have to do all the scoring. You got KCP, you got Montrezl Pope, you got everybody that kind of distributes the ball. You got Kuzma. He'll have off nights. I know Kuzma will have up and down nights, but his height alone can cause defenders, and he's a good defender. Like Tommy Shepard, that deal, like no one's even talking about this deal, which is crazy to me, is because we don't get no playing time. Like the Wizards, the Washington, D.C. area is a great sports town, but the problem is we've been so bad for so many years, we don't even get the recognition that we need. This trade that he made in the offseason to unload Westbrook, who actually wanted to stay if he couldn't do it, right? He wanted to stay, but Tommy Shepard knew it was a team. It was more about building the team than about one person. Yeah. So when the Lakers came calling and the Lakers gave up 3 players for one, I mean, at the end of the day,
3 very solid players.
Yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Look what Westbrook is doing out in LA right now.
He's sitting on the bench. He's a role player.
The Westbrook memes are coming back because I don't know if you saw the end of the game the other night against Thunder. So the Thunder have 2 wins on the season. Those 2 wins are against the Lakers. and in the first game, the Lakers had a 26-point lead.
Right.
Blew it. And the second game, they had a 19-point lead. Blew it. Well, down the stretch, Westbrook was driving in, and he just, I don't know, just threw the ball up over the backboard, like lost the ball out of bounds. Bad turnover. On the very next possession, Memphis, they aim on the ball. The guy catches it. Westbrook, for some reason, leaves his man, runs to the top of the key, where there's 4 other Lakers guarding this guy. He leaves his man. His man goes back door and just gets a dunk out, easy wide open dunk. So
now, do you believe
I love Westbrook. Go ahead.
Do you think it's Frank Vogel's fault? Because that comes down to coaching, or does that come down to, in my opinion, like personalities and egoism that kind of say, "Oh, I'm the star player," quote unquote? Because you have LeBron, you have Anthony Davis, you got a pretty stacked team.
Their excuse, I'm not going to give them this excuse because the Thunder is a G League team, but in both losses, LeBron didn't play in either one. So, but they picked up Westbrook to be that guy when LeBron's out. They know LeBron's old and he's going to miss games. His 19th season, he can't be Iron Man anymore. So they picked up Westbrook to be the leader in these type of games, and he's just, from what I've seen, he's been the guy who has committed those critical turnovers down the stretch and in both losses. So I don't think it's a matter of coaching. I think it's Westbrook pressing. He's back home in LA. He's feeling that pressure. They gave away 3 solid players to get me. I've got to be the one to step up and fill. I've got to fill that gap. I've got to bridge that gap between that loss and them bringing me in. They knew I'm supposed to be the guy here at home. And
Mm.
so that pressure is just really getting to him. After that first loss, the guys they brought him in, they huddled him in. They were like, "Hey man, don't take that too hard. You know, we know what you can do and all that."
Mhm.
But I think he's still feeling that pressure. And I think as the season goes on, they're gonna be the Lakers. These are just early season struggles. They're still struggling to gel. But
Right.
enough about them. Let's get back into the Wizards because
That's what I was about to say.
you know this is that trade. Tommy Shepard, he's going to get GM of the year because this team is they're going to win 50 games. They're not even healthy yet, and they've still gotten out to the gate to a nice start. Dinwiddie is a monster.
Mhm.
He's as he gels with this team, he's just going to get better and better. And then the three guys they brought in, Kuzma, like you said, he's up and down. His highs are extremely high though, and his lows they're not that bad. So you can, I'll take that with a guy like that. He's young too, still room to
Mhm.
grow. And then Harold is just he's a monster energy
Dude,
guy.
that
So
that man, oh,
yeah,
I love when you do that. See,
yeah,
the thing is, I want them to do more pick and rolls. Like I want because this
yeah.
team is. Remember back in the early '90s when you had Stockton and Malone, and they did that pick and roll to perfection,
Mhm.
perfection.
Yeah.
But Daniel Gafford and gosh, why am I not saying his name correctly?
Um,
Harold, right?
Harold,
Yeah, Harold. Yeah,
Montrezl Harold.
Montrezl. With those two guys, I don't see why they can't start both of them, right? Have him as almost like a shooting forward, not even like a power forward, like a shooting forward,
Mhm.
and kind of like because he's very athletic. I mean, I
Who's that?
didn't know
Who is the shooting forward?
Harold as like like almost like a double, almost like a hybrid, like where you can have Gafford in the middle, take up space, and do a pick and roll on the
Mhm.
wing, kind of like make him kind of shift
Who
over.
are they starting at the five right now?
Gafford will be starting at 5,
He's
and
starting,
yeah,
and
he's
then
starting.
who's that for? Who's that for?
Probably Kuzma. I would think Kuzma is at 4, and
And then
then
you've got Hachimura.
Hachimura is still out. He
Oh,
hasn't started yet.
oh,
Yeah,
oh.
Rui. I
Who's
mean, Rui's out for a while. I don't know what. I don't know why he's been out. I don't know if he has an injury or some mental thing he's dealing
is
with.
I haven't heard anything about that. I didn't even know
Yeah,
the guy wasn't playing.
Danny's been playing really good. I
So
told
Denny's
people.
starting,
Yeah, I think he started. Yeah, I
and
think
then
Danny's starting.
the other Gonzaga guy.
Oh,
Where is he fitting in that rotation?
he's off the bench. He comes off the bench,
Gotcha.
like yeah. So Beal's always you're going to be your shooting point,
Yeah,
your shooting forward. And you got Dinwiddie as the point. Then you
yeah.
got Kuzma, and then you have Montrezl Pope coming off the bench where he starts. Or KCP, sorry.
Um, KCP. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the reason they bring Harold off the bench is because he's always just been that off the bench energy guy. I think he
Mm,
actually prefers that role.
mm,
And he was six man of the year a couple of years ago. So
makes sense.
it's a role that really suits him.
True.
So yeah, I get that. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, because I think Gafford, like that, also Tommy Shepard's surprise make is when he was with Chicago. See, like my whole kind of feel is like when you're building a team, you got to build a team with the right chemistry, even with the egos or whatever. That's why I'm going to say this now. I'm going to get
Mhm.
green for it. I don't think Phil Jackson is a great coach. He never was. I think he just knew how to manage the egos, which is a lot more. But I think a great coach to me is like, if you go back to the Gibbs era in football, somebody like that who can kind of take people who are
Mhm.
not that very well talented, mix them in with very, very talented people and coach them up to be great.
Yeah.
Like Gary Williams, like even I think Gary Williams is one of the most underrated coaches in college basketball. That's
Yeah.
just me personally.
No doubt about it.
I'm watching the new thing Swagger on Apple TV
Mhm.
about Kevin Durant's story. So
Mhm.
it shows me that we in the DMV had a lot of players that could have played for Maryland, University of Maryland, but they didn't because of a lot of other things. That's another whole show episode. I don't want to get off on the track here, but when it comes to basketball, that's what I feel in my mind is you build around people who can play the game, play it solid, play it technically, and are coachable. You can still have egos. You can still have like look at Kobe. I love Kobe to death. May he rest in peace. May his soul rest in
Mhm.
peace. If you look at, he was just a gamer, a baller. He don't give a crap
He was a
about.
killer.
Oh, 100%. He didn't care about like scoring 50 points a game. He just wanted to win, but he wanted to win the right way. He wanted to see if you didn't put in the work, he didn't want you on the team. Like
Yeah.
a lot of players hated that because they wanted to go out to the club and party and do that where he was like practicing till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's the mentality you need to have. And I think now the Wizards finally have that mentality because when when Harold texted or tweeted after the game they lost, he's like, it's on me. I've never seen that in a long time on any Wizards team.
He's a passionate guy, and he's holds himself accountable.
Yeah, and then
the Wizards haven't had too many guys like that. So.
I don't think they even had a guy like that. I mean, I love John Wall. I mean, I will never.
He's not that kind of guy. No,
he's not that kind of guy. I'm sorry,
no.
I have to say that. I mean, what he did for the DC community, I could never disrespect Wall. Like that community loved him. He did so much. But I kind of feel why now people say that he wasn't the star that he needed to be. I kind of see that now because I think Beal. I think he took a lot of shine away from Beal, and Beal didn't develop until Wall left. I mean, you have to call a spade is because I think Wall kind of hampered his growth.
No question about it. No doubt about it.
And now, if you look at it, Beal, I mean, he should have won MVP. I mean, I'm being a homer. I know I'm being a homer. He should have won MVP. The reason being I'm saying that is he was second overall in scoring in the NBA last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was number 2.
No, that's right. Yep.
And if
it wasn't for percentage points, he almost won the scoring title.
Exactly. Just by I think 0.1% or something he lost to Harden for. But I also believe
Curry.
Oh, Steph Curry. Oh, don't even get me started on Steph Curry. Oh God. I mean, okay, that's another issue. But
we probably have differing opinions on Steph. I think he's the second greatest point guard ever.
But he's not a point guard though. That's the thing. He's not a point guard. Shooting guard. Okay, I can say he's the greatest. Shooting wise, hands down, amazing.
But I think this could be a debate for another show. I'll keep my opinion brief, and then we can maybe get into it on a different show. But
yeah, definitely.
He is a guy who makes the guys around him better. He's a great passer, underrated passer. See, I watch him a lot. The games are on late, so we get those a lot here. So I see him a lot. People see the shooting highlights, but he manages the game well. He's a quarterback on the court.
Okay,
who can also shoot lights out. So, but yeah, that's a topic for another.
That's a topic. Sorry, guys, we're getting way off the topic right now. But let's
this is just free form. We just speak our minds. No matter what the topic is, it can go anywhere. So you got to be ready for that.
That's why we're called the Talking Hats. We speak about everything from
not the topic hats, the talking hats. We're going to talk.
We're going to talk. And the thing is, it's all related, guys. I mean, if you're truly a sports fan like how Dale and I are, we're very, very passionate, and we're not saying we know everything, but we know enough to keep our heads cool. We can, I'll put it this way: we can argue with the best of them and keep our points to a minimum, and we can say what we need to say. As they say, we talk soft, but we carry a big stick. So, a little adult humor, but going back to the game, last game I saw the Memphis game yesterday. And I tell you, this team is very scary. Very, very, very scary. The East better be put on notice because when Rui comes back,
and Thomas Bryant.
Their starting
center.
Yes, and that's the thing. I think Thomas Bryant can move into a shooting forward position because he can shoot.
He's a very good player. Overall, he's a very solid player.
Yes. Yeah. And with Gafford in the middle, who are you going to guard? You can't double either one of them because if you do, you got Bill on the side. And you got KCP and you got Dinwiddie who all can shoot. And Kuzma can shoot too. You got 3 top players that can shoot threes at a high level and a high percentage. 40% is pretty high. It's not the thing. And this reminds me of the old Golden State Warriors team where they had 3 to 4 players that could just flat out shoot and play defense.
Yeah. And I think, Unseld is probably getting some credit for the change of philosophy on defense. But I think, I think he deserves it. He deserves that credit. But you're also going to get better on defense when you've got guys who care. So you got Harold. Harold gets abused in the playoffs by big centers, but in other matchups where he's not outmatched by size, his energy first of all, it picks everybody else up on the court. Yes. When you've got energy like that, when you've got somebody who just is showing they care, and you don't want to let that guy down, that's going to cause you to pick it up on the defensive end too. And their defense this year is better than it has been in probably about 5-6 seasons. And under Scott Brooks, there was no defense being played, but
it's funny for a casual fan, they don't understand the intricacies of defense, right? They'll just see they're playing this, they're playing that. Back in the good old days, like when we used to watch, basketball used to be very physical. You come down the lane, you get knocked out. You don't, they know. Now everything's touchy-feely. The LeBron style of basketball. Yes, I said it. LeBron is not as good as people make him out to be. I mean, if I was 6'6", 206, I should be scoring 40 points a game. I'm sorry. I mean, I would be scoring 40 points a game with his size and build. Doesn't matter in area, but to me, he doesn't have like that killer mentality that Kobe does.
No. And I've always gotten on this case because he hasn't been a killer. He's always needed someone else to be that guy, like
Ray Allen.
Yeah, and in the first championship for the Heat, he wanted D Wade to take that role.
Yes.
And then with the Cavs, of course, Kyrie, who hit that big shot. But as he's gotten later on in his career, his shot has gotten better. He's definitely more willing and comfortable taking like a mid-range jumper. And he's, of course, gotten much bigger too. So I think his mentality has changed a little bit. And I think it's because he's being forced that way. And with the Lakers championship, AD took over that role too. But this season, if he wants to have any prayer or a shot to get there, he's going to have to be the guy. You can't count on Anthony Davis. He's Mr. Glass. Westbrook, you're definitely not going to be able to count on.
So you think Anthony Davis is soft?
First, and I'll say this to the Browns' face. I'm 5'8". I wouldn't back down from him in a second. He's 6'10" or whatever. He's big softy, and he's fragile. Always hurt.
But he pushed Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's a big dude, bro.
Dwight Howard would dismantle him. He wouldn't have stepped to Dwight Howard if he didn't have guys holding him back. He wouldn't just walk up to him in an alley or something and step to him. No chance. He's a big, soft, fragile dude.
I'll step to both of them. Both are a bunch of I'm this one.
Dwight Howard, he's one of them dudes that's always smiling, but he has that look in his eyes, like he might snap and just
go off.
I don't trust people like that. I don't know what he might do.
You know what's funny though? There's a lot of stories about Dwight Howard
I've heard some questionable things. I'm not going to say it here because I don't have any representation, and I won't even say alleged, but I've definitely heard some things.
Yeah. Hey, First Amendment right speech. They can't take that away from us.
True that.
But no, let's kind of rewind back. I know we got a little bit off a tangent, and at the same
that's
time,
what it is.
I mean, but that's how. See, now you can see what our podcast is like. Is we're so passionate about sports that we can talk about one thing and everything is related, is because when we say killer mentality, that's what the Wizards have right now, is that killer mentality. You may disagree with me because they lost 2 games. Okay, whoop-de-doo. But
can't win them all. Nobody's ever gone 82-0 or 81-0.
Right. And the thing is,
82 games?
Yeah, I think it's 82 games. 82, right? Yeah, 82. Yeah. It's been a while. Early morning for everybody over there. But if you look at it, the killer mentality is here now. You have players who want to win, not just be like, oh, I get paid, I'm here. They want to win. When you get players who want to win, culture changes very quickly. I mean, if you look at it from Wes Unseld Jr., his dad was a beast. He got instituted into the game at a very young age. He went around. He's a very proven coach. And I'm glad he came back to his hometown where his daddy played, because now, yes, there's a lot of pressure, but I don't think he feels the pressure because he's coaching to where he thinks he needs to be, because he was on the Denver staff, right? If I believe so. So, and Denver is a solid team, going from point guard play to center play to wing play. All around, they're very, very solid team. And I think that's what he's envisioning. Dale, you can talk more about the Denver team because unfortunately, I don't get the games and it's way too late for me to stay up. So.
You know what's funny is I don't get the games either because the Altitude Network no longer has a deal with our local TV providers out here. So we don't get to see the locally broadcast games. I do get to see when they're on, TNT or ESPN. And so I catch them here and there. And we're going to go to a couple of games here this season. But as far as the Nuggets go, they're a very deep and talented young team. And I won't give them their best player because their most talented player is out right now, and Jamaal Murray. Yeah. I think he's even more talented than the Joker, but he doesn't have that mentality yet. In the bubble, he showed what he can be. He took that team. He led that team throughout the bubble series, and he showed the player he can be. But then the very next season, he regressed to the guy he was before that, who was a guy who he'll have a game here and there, like one out of every 10 games, he'll score 30. And then he'll go back to a 14 point a game guy. And that takes his average. You know, he doesn't break 20 yet as far as his scoring average, but he easily could. And Bill was that player under John Wall. So maybe.
So you think the Joker is the one who's holding him back?
That's what I was going to say. But the Joker, the Joker wants other people to shine. He'll step up and score 40 when he knows, like, I got to do this right now. But he's a pass first center who just has that other. He can bully you or he can shoot over your head. Like he can do everything. But he wants his teammates to take over and do that until they show they're not, and then he'll step up and do it.
Right. See, that's what I kind of have a little bit of a disagreement. Like my whole thing is like, I feel that Jamaal Murray, if he really wanted to take that step, he should have done it, regardless of. You're the point guard. You're like the quarterback of the offense.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting for other people to do it for you, in my humble opinion, then that means
it's not Murray that I think that's waiting for other people to do it. I'm saying the Joker is more. I want other people to shine, and then if I need to, I'll step up and take over. Murray is just. I think Murray doesn't realize how good he is. That's what I think his problem is.
So it's a mental thing then, almost.
And
that's scary though, because let's say if he has two bad games, one bad game, everybody can have a bad game, right? Let's say if he has two bad games, then he starts thinking that, I can't do this anymore. And then if you get those yips, you're done for. Like it's hard for any professional athlete.
Well, see, I think he's confident in his game, but I don't think he realizes that he can be Bradley Beal. Like he can score. He can have a 30-point a game season, but I don't think he knows that yet. I don't think, and he's still relatively young. So I think like and Booker, he's like.
Did he come from high school or he came from college?
No, he was like Kentucky.
He went to Kentucky for a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that's why I brought up Devon Booker, another Kentucky guy who was kind of that same type of player. Devon Booker had a 70-point game a few seasons ago, but even that didn't show him the player he could be. He didn't become the player he could be until he got Chris Paul.
See, so I was about to say that now. So do you think they need another point guard, a veteran point guard who can kind of like say, hey, you need to change your mindset. Like you got to be like, you're right here, but we need you to be up here, elevated.
Yeah, maybe him handling the ball puts too much pressure on him where he feels like he has to get other people involved instead of him just taking over. And with that, the Joker also runs point center a lot too. So they kind of play off each other. So he's not ball dominant by any means, but something I feel like is holding him back. Besides that one playoff run he had in the bubble where he showed what he can be.
Yeah, but I think he needed to do that. I think because they didn't have a full team. Like, because a lot of players didn't or did he feel that he needed to take over is because everybody was dogging him and he needed to be like, all right, I'm going to shut up the haters.
He kind of did need to take over because Michael Porter Jr. wasn't the guy that he is now yet. He's blossomed now and he got that $200 million deal.
$200 million?
I'm not even going to go into that one. I'm not getting
started. Whoa. No, I'm not. You got to stop right there, bro.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
$200 million for Michael Porter Jr.? I thought it was less than 100. But 200? They're paying him like a superstar? Like a superstar.
Yep.
Why would you do that? Okay.
To me, it ain't my money. I don't care. I mean, whatever. I want my team to be good. To me, if I was a GM, I'm not paying anybody a $200 million deal unless you're on the level of a Steph. Even James Harden, I'll throw him in there. But like LeBron gets that contract, not Michael Porter Jr. Yeah. I know that's the market rate. But you can I'll let somebody else pay you that market rate. The rest of my roster is good enough without Michael Porter Jr.
So Denver paid $200 million for Michael Porter?
Yes. And I think it's like a 4 or 5 year. It might be a 4-year deal or 5-year deal. One of those, $200 million.
Is it guaranteed? Is all money guaranteed in the NBA or only a portion of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Every single penny.
Every single penny. Wow. Okay. Yep. That's a whole nother topic. Okay. All right. We can talk like for hours on that stuff. All right.
But the Nuggets have 3 max players: Jamaal Murray, Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr.
You know what though, bro? I think that's why Jamaal Murray's not playing the way he's playing.
He probably won't be back. He tore his ACL last April, so he probably won't be back until around the playoffs this year. And then I don't know how he's going to come back mentally around that time for that playoff run. I would imagine at that point they'll be bringing him off the bench.
They have to.
So he can get back up to speed.
because you and I both know once you get your ACL kind of torn, you ain't the same player.
No,
you don't have
but
the same.
it's not physically.
Just yep.
You're scared to make those cuts because last time you made that cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's kind of wrap everything up and put a bow on top, as some people would say. Either or, I like the Wizards, how they're going. Denver's showing great progress into what they're trying to do, even though they have a lot of max contracts. But now let's go to the next. Yeah.
Let's do predictions real quick. Okay, where do you think the Wizards are going to finish in the East as far as seeding?
I'll say sixth.
Sixth. I was thinking I've thrown 4 and 5 out there. 4 was more towards the beginning of the season when they were 5-1. Now I'm feeling like 5, and they could even end up in the 6, but I'll go 5 so we can write those down and hold each other to it. You've got 6, I've got 5. We'll see how we end up at the end of the season.
So you said 4 or 5?
5.
5, and I said 6. The reason why I say 6 is I'm taking injuries into consideration. I'm taking wear and tear, and I'm also taking into consideration that people will be put on notice after a couple of games, and the way they played against Memphis, they kind of showed the blueprint to clog up the middle. Or when they played against the other the game beforehand. Sorry, that's kind of escaping me. That was who played again before Memphis? Do you have that up by chance? Or no?
I sure don't.
I think it was Boston.
Yeah. They beat Boston twice, right?
They lost to Boston.
They beat Boston and Boston. Then maybe they lost them at home.
Yeah, they lost them at home, and they lost. Okay, so I think Boston kind of showed, but they kind of showed if you clog up the middle, they can't do anything. So people may take that into consideration until they kind of figure out. But we didn't get picks 5th and 6th. We'll hold on until the season gets done. So let's switch topics a little bit and go into our beloved football. If you haven't heard the news yet about Henry Riggs, it's a sad event, but I have my opinions on it. I'll let Dale go first, and then I'll respond after that. Dale, what do you think about that situation?
Man, the way that and I hate even saying it, the way that they described how the girl died, I want to give him benefit of the doubt and say he's young and he made a mistake. But then I have 2 sisters. I think about, what if it was one of my sisters? What if it was my wife? I wouldn't feel like, in my mind, I wouldn't be thinking he's young and he made a mistake. In my mind, I'd be hunting him down, So I can only imagine how her family feels. Right. He's 22, 23 years old. When my brother was in the league, and he came in the league at 22. When he was that age, and I think he got drafted when he was 21, but whatever the case, when he came in and he was that young, he had the presence of mind that we went out downtown, when he was that age. You know what he did when he went out downtown? He didn't take a risk on getting home safely. He had his brother be his designated driver, because I didn't drink back then. So I was always the DD. He had the presence of mind to have that set up in advance. He knew he was going out, so he wanted to make sure he had a driver. And I made sure that I wasn't going to let my brother get in trouble. I don't know if Henry Ruggs has family out there with him, but I know he has teammates, and I know he has friends out there. Derek Carr said all he had to do was call me. I would have been there. I'm sure every single one of his teammates felt the same way, 3 a.m. or not. Right. If all you had to do was call me. See, you never have to do that. Yeah. So I'm heated, so I'll let you jump in so I can calm down a little bit.
So I feel the same way. I mean, drinking and driving is no mas. It's not a fun situation. When you take a life, it's a very, very, very thing that you have to live with for the rest of your life. And what he did is inexcusable. I mean, they said that they found a gun, they found some stuff. So we don't know what he was going through when he went through what he went through, but there's no excuse. But I also feel that
there's more to that gun story. I'll briefly touch on that later.
Gotcha. But I also feel that the NFL doesn't have a good, they always say you can call the NFL for a free ride and all that. But I also feel that when players are going through something, there's not an outlet to get them help. They're just looked at as
there is. Yeah.
Now,
but it's not about whether or not there's the outlet. It's about being man enough to take it.
See, that's also what was my second point I was coming to is whatever happened. You can't change it now. If you wanted to go back in time, he can do it. But the issue is he drank, he drove, and he killed somebody. consequence. That's why I tell my wife, I tell everybody this: anything you do has consequences in life. You do something good, consequences can be good. It can also be bad. I mean, good stuff does have bad consequences to it. But when you do something bad, you better be ready for consequences, because no one tells you to go out and drink till 3 o'clock in the morning, get in the car. That's your decision. You made that decision. You got to live with the consequences. This poor man, he was a rising star. And this is what really upsets me the most. This is what really gets me and it irks me like to everything. He was 22 years old, still is 22 years old. He made one bad mistake. Call it a mistake. His life is ruined now. He's going to jail for the rest of his life. It's manslaughter. I mean, it's going to be manslaughter, and he's gone. I love what Derek Carr said is that if no one's going to get his back, I'm going to be with him. But Derek Carr is just a nice guy, so you really can't like think.
He's a deeply Christian man, so
yeah,
he believes in forgiveness and all that. I'm sure he's praying for Henry Ruggs every day.
Yeah,
and hopefully praying for the victim as well.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's not going to end up like that. We all know he's going to go into a penitentiary for the rest of his life for what he did for a dumb mistake. And that's what I always tell people, like, when you go out drinking, I mean, make sure you have he's a rich person. He's a millionaire, multi-millionaire. All I had to do is on speed dial. And my whole question, maybe you can elaborate on this. You don't go out by yourself, homeboy. You go out with a bunch of people. You're telling me that one of them couldn't just call? Or the bartender be like, okay, he's kind of drunk, let me get a cab for him or something. Because a responsible bartender, when I used to bounce, we knew people who couldn't drive, okay? And we told them, like, hey, call him a cab because you can't go out. It should be the responsibility. I'm not blaming the establishment. I mean, it's really difficult in that situation. But sometimes I feel that the establishment itself needs to take a front step and say, hey, look, you had enough. I mean, you enjoyed your time. It's a club. We all have fun. But if somebody saw him come out that and he was too drunk to drive, they should have stopped him and say, hey, let me call you a cab. Take it upon you, because then it's bad business, because if they find out which establishment it is, they're gonna be like, oh, this establishment overpoured him, and they get into trouble.
Yeah.
So
here's what I've heard about this whole thing, like after the fact. He was out at Top Golf, and supposedly Top Golf closes at 12 out there in Vegas. I haven't looked into that, but that's what I heard. And
that's
so
pretty cool.
The accident was at 3. So more details that I've heard, and these are all just rumors, but speculation, rumor, alleged. That he was at a teammate's house, a cornerback on the team. I'm not going to name his name because I don't know if any of this is true, but he was out at a cornerback's house and they were all partying and drinking, and the teammate had guns and stuff, and so that's where the gun comes into play. People say he might have probably got the gun from his teammate. Later that night, his teammate was on live, flashing around guns, threatening somebody, "I'll kill you" or something like that. So that was that same night. The teammate's house, there was a map posted showing the path from the teammate's house to where the accident happened was a straight line. So that's why the speculation is that he came from the teammate's house. He was flying through that residential neighborhood. And then,
do you think he got threatened? And that's why he left in that
No, I don't think so. I think he was just over there partying and got more drunk. I'm sure he didn't leave Top to go off hammered. He probably got more drunk at the teammate's house.
Now the question believes, why didn't that teammate stop him from driving, or anybody in that house? Because he could have stayed at that house. The teammate's drunk too. Nobody has a sense of mind to, he could have stayed at the house. He could have called an Uber. He could have, woulda, shoulda, but he didn't. From what I understand, teams even have driver services set up for the players. I don't know that to be true, but I've heard that. And so he had so many options. Call a family, call Derek Carr. Yeah. If you play with that dude, you know what kind of man he is. If you would have called him at 3 a.m. saying, man, I need a ride, he would have been there. Oh, heck, 100%.
So many other options.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's just, I just feel for the man. You know what I'm saying? Like he made a very error in judgment. And when you're drunk, believe me, I've been 4 years sober. I know what that feeling is, because it kind of hits close to home for me, is because I've been in that situation many a times, but I never drove in a way. So it's like, it's the people that you're with. Like when we used to go out, like you used to be like, hey man, don't drive. And I'll be like, hey man, you don't drive either. So it's just a thought process. It's kind of hard, because when you go out and drink, you have a good time, but if you don't have good people around you, right? That's when those decision makings kind of kind of get blurred. And it sucks because now his entire career is kaput. He can't help his family. He can't help anybody else. He's going to be in jail. And I don't think he thought things through. I really don't think he did. And now he's going to face the consequences. And the Raiders cut him like it was a piece of meat. Like they don't care. They're like, oh, publicity. He's no more on the team. But I feel that they should help him out in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Derek Carr did step up, and that's, as you say, he's a good Christian individual, and that's what we kind of need in this world nowadays. Even though there's safety nets, there's also things that people need help, and he needed, and I think he needed the help, but we don't know what his, like, as you say, what his background, what led him up to that situation to overdrink or overdo something. Because a lot of people, when they're going through a lot of things, they overly consume anything. It's just to forget, or sometimes people just have a great time. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you forget your senses. And then whatever he's probably going through is something kind of, it's here nor there, but it's unfortunate. It's just really unfortunate. I mean, like I said, I've been in those situations many a times, and I literally had a friend of mine who was a bartender take my keys, put it in his pocket, and was like, you're not driving. You're coming home with me tonight, and you're not driving your car here. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that, And he was like, and I was like, and that's what it needs to be. People like that. Like, I'll tell you a story, right? Dale, our family and Dale's family, we went out before, this is way before I stopped drinking. I had a little bit too much to drink. Dale was sober enough. He was like, you're not driving, let's call an Uber. And I'm like, okay, let's call an Uber. See, you need individuals like that, because that's why I love Dale, because he's like my brother, right? I mean, he is my brother. I'll tell you that right now, because if he didn't do that, like, I would have put myself in danger. I would have put a lot of people in danger too. You need somebody like that to say, hey, stop, don't do this. Because if you don't, then in your head, you're like, oh, I'm good to drive. This is good. You need somebody that's that. And I've done that too many times to other people too. Once once I come out and I was like, hey, you know what? Don't drive, because it's not worth it. Because one slip up, that's all it takes. Your entire life is gone. And luckily, like, you may survive this, but others might not. So, and that's the situation now. It's happening, and it's a travesty. It's just a tragedy. Sorry, I had to get on a little bit of a kind of a tearjerker.
No, I agree. Just to kind of put a bow on this whole rug situation, you know, I, I don't want to be judged by the worst thing I've done in my life, by the one bad thing I've done. I don't want to be judged by that. I won't judge him by that. He's 22. He still has room to grow and room for redemption in life. He's not going to get the maximum sentence of 40 years, because he's not a regular person. He has money, so he'll probably get a couple of years. But when he gets out, that's the time to show that he's grown from it. He learned from it. He can still make a difference in this world. The victim cannot. Her story, her journey is ended. Hopefully, when he gets out, he can try to make amends for that somehow, or even support drunk driving organizations or anti-drunk driving organizations. He has a chance for redemption. Her story is over. She doesn't. That's it. So.
Or do like what Dante Stallworth did when he had the same incidences, where he paid for everything else, but he has some really great lawyers too. So
and I don't compare the two situations, because though Dante Stallworth was driving drunk, he wasn't speeding, and the man crossed the street and not a crosswalk at night.
Yeah,
and he was also drunk.
Right.
And so that could have happened whether Dante Stallworth was drunk or not. That was just an accident.
That's also true. Yeah, both situations are different, right? Yeah. But because he went through a whole whirlwind, because this is like the second case in the NFL that I've heard that actually had like a death in an incident with the drunk driving. So it's almost like, hey, this is what people might even think about, like, hey, but it's just a sad situation for a very, very talented player. I just hope he gets the help that he needs, and he has a really good support system, because when you're your lowest, you find out who your true friends are, and it's unfortunate that he has to go through this. I'm glad Derek Carr is in his corner, because you need somebody like Derek Carr, like him in his corner, to be like, hey, you know what? I'm here for you, brother. And that's the thing. That's why I got Dale, and Dale got me. So that's why we have a good support system. Everything is good. And that's why we started this podcast, y'all, is like, we have so much experience just personally and also in sports. And Dale has a little bit more in certain areas, and I have a little bit more in other areas. We were just like, hey, let's kind of bring our passion about these events or any other events to you guys. So if you guys are going through something, then maybe you might think of something and be like, oh, okay, that's a good point. Maybe I don't need to do that.
And if
But
anybody does happen to see this, reach out via the contacts I gave out in the beginning of the show. If you need to talk about anything, this can be like we both got a lot of life experience. Reach out, give us a call, shoot us an email. I'll answer your questions, relationship advice, whatever it is. We're here for you.
yeah,
Sports questions, just whatever it is. I don't care what it
whatever.
is. This is a general talk show. It's not sport. It has a foundation in sports, but we're going to go into all aspects
Yes.
of life here, and so you can too. Feel free.
Yes. Therapy session.
Switching,
That's all it
yeah,
is.
definitely. But
It's
switching
also,
gears here,
fun.
let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's switch gears and talk about first of all the Von Miller trade to the Rams. We can get into that and then see where that whole topic takes us. Probably down the whole NFL highway, but first things first.
So it was funny, right? When the football team was playing against them, they're like, "Oh, Von Miller's not playing because of an ankle," and I'm like, "Wait, Von Miller's not playing because of an ankle injury?"
He did hurt his ankle at the end of the previous game. He got rolled up on.
So remember, there's another thing. Are you injured or are you hurt? I don't think. I mean, depending on how severity the injury was, but I also believe first of all, I don't want to get on my soapbox. Washington could have won that game. Denver was playing to lose. Washington wasn't playing to win. So either or, that game was a travesty on our end. We were so bad. I mean, it kind of proved that we need a quarterback, and the injuries on the offensive line hurts. I mean, I like Heineke. He's great. He's a great start, but we need a quarterback that can throw kind of to open players, and that's more than 50 yards.
Now, like I said, this discussion about Von Miller can take us anywhere. You brought up quarterbacks for the Washington football team, so I'm going to go down that road. There was a rumor just before the trade deadline that they were interested in Trubisky. Now, that is something that probably wouldn't play well with the fan base. However, I'm a Trubisky guy.
Really?
It's probably me and his dad are the only Trubisky guys in the world.
I have a friend of mine who's a Trubisky guy too.
Yeah, he has talent, man. It's just, look, has any quarterback succeeded under Nagy? Come on now, no. Trubisky played well.
Horrible coach.
Before Nagy got there, if you're looking, okay, I'm gonna go back to a preseason game that Dowell Loggins was calling the plays for Trubisky. He was running like a Shanahan type scheme, and Trubisky looked so comfortable. His arm looked great. He was running around. Like, this dude has a lot of talent, but he has to be in the right scheme. And if the Washington football team had made the trade for him, he wouldn't have succeeded there either, because it's not the right scheme.
Yeah.
If they get the right, and Scott Turner's not the right coach for him. If they get the right coach in there who will run a scheme like Shanahan's out in San Francisco, or even like the scheme that who has that running game that's murdering people? Like the Colts have a freaking, their running game is just absurd, and that's hiding Carson Wentz's lack of anything. But if they got a scheme, yeah, they did, and that they only won because Mike White got hurt. If they're the Jets quarterback, if Mike White didn't get hurt, the Jets would have housed them. But so I'm all for them looking for a guy like Trubisky next season, or even a Mike White who might be available. Just guys who can. They're not going to go out there and win a game themselves, but a quarterback shouldn't have to do that.
No.
They're solid players that a team can build around. As long as you can get the ball from point A to point B, I don't need you to run around and try to make something happen. Just run the play I call. That's what I want from a quarterback.
So I kind of differ from that in the sense that they need to be a little bit like when you say from point A to point B. I just feel that they need to call the right plays. And I don't think Scott Turner, see, the problem I've seen the last couple of games is they run the ball very efficiently. They get 5 yards a game. So my thing is, you're having an identity issue at this point. Like, you want to throw all these fancy Nancy passes, and I'm like, dude, what's the point? Like, why are you doing all these like trick plays or kind of do a screen pass and a pass that you get the yards, but if the defense can read you, you're done for. But you're pounding the ball 5 yards a game. Why don't you stick to it? I understand that, we don't want to be predictable, but sometimes if you're predictable and you still can gain 5 to 6 yards, what does that say about your own team?
Well, that's like the Colts on Thursday night. They pounded the ball down the Jets' throat. That was their game plan going in. The Jets knew it was coming and couldn't stop it. It doesn't matter if you know it was coming and if you can't stop it. So pound the ball if that's working.
Yeah, because you have Antonio Gibson, you have J.D. McKissick, you got that short guy from Buffalo, Patterson. And I like Patterson. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Solid player.
I think he's more of an off tackle player than in between. I mean, yeah, he is thick, but his speed is so pure. And if they can get him outside, he can gain you easily 15 yards, easily.
Yeah.
But I also believe Scott Turner is trying to compete with his dad. Like, I kind of feel that, like,
well, he's running the very similar type of scheme, except his dad was probably a little more run heavy. Whereas he's probably trying to show he can do something with the quarterback who just can't do it.
Yeah, and I just feel that, like, with Von Miller out and with that trade that happened after they announced the trade, everything made sense. Why he didn't play, why he, like, wanted to go. And what that tells you is the Rams are all in it this year. They're not backing down from nothing. Now they have 3 future Hall of Famers on that defense with Matthew Stafford. I think they're going straight to the Super Bowl. Like, no team can stop them. No team can stop them. Which team won't stop them?
I can see how everybody would think that way. I'm still not sold on Matthew Stafford. He has never won a playoff game.
He didn't have the talent around him.
Sure he did. He had Megatron.
Okay, but that's only one player. He didn't have a running game.
If you're okay, there have been quarterbacks who haven't had world beater talent around them. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with average receivers. So, like, I mean, I'm just not sold on him. Goff went to a Super Bowl. So to me, you got to show you're that guy before I believe in you. And he has not shown. He's had a long career and he hasn't shown it. So I'm not going to buy it. I'm not buying into the Rams going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, their defense is great. They've had better defenses than they have right now before. And they went to a Super Bowl with a better defense. And I mean, Goff took them there and they couldn't get the job done, but they went.
The only difference is they didn't have Sean McVay.
No, they did. Yes, they did.
No.
He was a coach.
No, what I'm saying, Stafford didn't have a Sean McVay.
Oh, Stafford didn't. Yeah.
So that's the only thing I can say is because when Megatron was playing, it was only Megatron. Like, it was just, and then unfortunately his body broke down the way he played, right? So eventually, like, Stafford needed a number 2 and a number 3. He never had that in Detroit. I mean, he all he did was Megatron and Stafford. They had that connection so well planned out that you could have thrown it out. But now with the Rams, he has so much multiple options that he can throw it long field down. He has more. I'll say this. He has more options than he did in Detroit. And the coaching staff in Detroit that he's had were all bad. I'm sorry. They were all horrible. Defensively.
Detroit. No question. That's Detroit.
Yeah. And Detroit has they have great players. I mean, not great. They have good, solid players. But I believe that the coaching that comes in there, the Ford family, I hate to say it, are not very good owners. I mean, they haven't built that team to where, I mean, you hire Matt Millen, who was supposed to be a good GM back in the early days, and he did one of the worst draft deals in picking up other people. Like,
it's a joke of an organization. And I know Matthew Stafford had to fall under that, but as the quarterback, he's in a position to make more of a difference than he did. And he never got the job done. Maybe he can prove me wrong here, but I refuse to believe it until I see it.
Fair point. I would say, because we've always had so I will say this: when RG3 came to the Washington team, Redskins back then, I would say I believed in fool's gold because we wanted somebody so bad that can do this, but there was a lot of drama behind the scenes that we didn't know about until he left. And I also feel that Shanahan, I know you like Shanahan, I think Shanahan made the wrong decision of playing him in that game when his knee wasn't full.
No question. Shanahan's my favorite coach of all time, of course, for obvious reasons.
Right. Are you wearing the number? Are you wearing the number? For y'all, for everybody who's listening, that's not his own number. Just
yes, it is. This is my jersey. What are you talking about? But although he's my favorite coach of all time, I will freely and readily admit that he mishandled that situation, and he ruined RG3's career with that one game. RG3 would have been the guy that he showed he was in 2012 if he didn't play in that one playoff game, and the Redskins would have won that game if he would have started Kirk Cousins. If he would have started Kirk Cousins against Seattle instead of running RG3 out there, and by the way, they had a 14-0 lead in that game.
I know, right?
Like, they would have won that game with Kirk Cousins starting. Yeah. Kirk Cousins he came in the game after RG3 got hurt, but he hadn't game planned to be the starter the whole week. So what was he supposed to do? Yeah. And if he game planned the whole week and came out as a starter, they win that game. And RG3's career is saved.
Yeah, that's true too. And I also believe that, like, RG3 kind of was his own what do you call it? His own worst enemy by making that ESPN kind of like what is that called? Whatever the reels they put together for him. I think that he shouldn't have done that. He should have been like, you know what, I'm just going to do it my own way and not publicize my I mean, because a knee injury is a very severe knee injury. What he had, when Nada hit him, I thought he was done. I thought his career was done. I was like, boy, that no one's leg should bend like that. It was like a rubber band. I was like, okay.
And at that point, it's up to the team. It's up to the team, the head coach, to save him from himself. And he should not have played again that season.
And unfortunately, like they couldn't pull the trigger, because we've all played the game at one level or another. And when the coach was like, coach should know his own players really well. He should know what the difference between an injury is and what's the difference between are you okay or hurt. And if you can't make the distinction because it's a playoff game, at the end of the day, they are human beings. They are people that they have a family, they have a livelihood. You have to protect, you have to be that father figure. I'm sorry to use that word, but you got to be that father figure and be like, listen, maybe not today, but maybe we can lose this battle, but the war is still going on. We can win the war later on. It's just a battle. It's just a playoff game. We lose it, okay, big deal, but we can come back next year. Let's come back strong and win it back here. And that's a hard decision to make. And a lot of coaches don't make that decision. It's a very difficult decision because if I'm at the tip of the spear, I can take the blame for my players because you're the coach. I'd rather take the heat than my players because at the end of the day, you're the one that made that decision. And now you have to live with it. And now look at this. Your legacy can be all great, except for that one little instance. They always will go back.
Yeah, no question.
But let's kind of like lighten. What do you think? Because this is going to lead into my next kind of conversation with you. With the trade going on with Von Miller and everything, what do you feel about the defense now for the Rams? How do you feel that defense now is going to be playing? Are they going to play at a high level or are they going to take a step back?
Adding a guy like Von, who still has it, he just, he's dealt with some injuries the past couple of seasons. I think he's still an elite pass rusher. Adding him is never going to hurt. I think that Ramsey is a little bit of an overrated corner. His numbers, the against top flight, the bigger receivers, he does pretty well, but against a guy like DK Metcalf, who's big and has speed, or even a little smaller receiver who's quick, shifty, and has some speed, he doesn't fare well against those type of guys because he's such a big player. So that's a little bit of a weakness in their secondary. But adding a guy like Vaughn is going to mask any weaknesses you have in your secondary. You've got Vaughn coming off an edge. You've got Aaron Donald coming up the middle. I mean, you're not going to have time to really pick apart a secondary. So that's going to, of course, help out their defense. And then offensively, if Stafford can avoid the mistakes he made in the past as far as turning the ball over, putting the defense in bad situations, that's also going to help them out. They are an overall solid team and well coached, so we'll see how far they can go. We'll see how far Stafford can take them.
Do they play a 34 or 43 defense?
I believe they play a 4-3.
4-3, really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay, that's going to be trouble then. Because with Vaughn coming off the edge, his speed is like.
I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me, but I think they are 4-3.
I think they are 4-3 too.
Because I don't think Donald is a nose tackle. I think he plays just defensive tackle with another player beside him.
Yeah, because he doesn't play and he plays tackle, right? So yeah, I mean, there's no way Okay, now to overshadow the Aaron Rodgers situation. So I have my opinions. I want to hear yours. And do you feel that the NFL? Was it too harsh or was it right? Or was he saying the right things? Because it's kind of back and forth because a lot of individuals I've been hearing are like kind of split on this on this.
I honestly think he should have been suspended for lying because his lie put him in a position to skirt some of the protocols that are put in place for unvaccinated players. By saying he was immunized, he was allowed to walk around certain situations without a mask on where other players weren't allowed to do that because they thought he was vaccinated. So that put other players at risk. That put his team at risk. And now you can see the situation they're in where they were unprepared. Jordan Love could have been prepared to start, but this news was just sprung upon all of them. And then for him to come out and start quoting Joe Rogan, I mean, come on. I mean, there are medical professionals out here who've actually done research, and he's saying he did his own research, and there's something in the vaccine that he's allergic to. Sure, um, I respect, of course, what Joe Rogan does. We all have to be on his level, but don't come quoting him for medical advice. I mean, let's be serious. I just disgusted. I'm just disgusted by the whole situation.
Yeah, I have a different opinion on that because
I know you do.
because the way, I mean, it's I just feel that like lying, yes, you can't say I'm immunized if you're not immunized, because when you say you're immunized, it means you got the vaccine.
Yeah.
If you would have went and said, hey, you know what? I talked to my doctor, talked to this, I got a different therapy, I got a different remedy for this, then it wouldn't have been an issue, in my opinion. When you say you're immunized, that means you got a shot and you're good to go, but you didn't get the shot. So lying is a huge, because you ruined my fantasy team.
Uh-huh.
I mean, all said aside, you ruined my fantasy team. But all jokes aside, I just feel that what he said, I believe he should have been upfront about it, not just going around and saying this or that, because there's a lot of data out there. I saw Dr. Drew, and I heard Dr. Drew on the
I listen to Dr. Drew a lot.
Yeah, and he was like, he pretty much said on the Dave Rubin show. If you don't know who Dave Rubin is, he's a talk show host who owns his own podcast, and he had Dr. Drew on. They were kind of discussing vaccines and masks, and he was like, Dr. Drew was like, there's studies out there that shows masks don't work, because there's studies out there that says that. And he's like, even with the immunization stuff, he was like, I got COVID. He's like, I had COVID, and it's the worst. And he's like, I got the Johnson & Johnson, and I got a huge reaction. I had like a black eye. They call it something. It's a very fascinating kind of different point of view from a medical professional. So
Dr. Drew, he did have COVID, but he hadn't gotten the vaccine before he got COVID. He got the vaccine after he got COVID.
And then when he took the Johnson & Johnson, he got that allergic reaction, like something. I don't know what it's called medically, but it's like you get a black eye, and he was like, oh wow, this is crazy. And he was like, and it was a really interesting conversation, because he's like, there's other ways now, because there's studies from India, studies from England that says they could have prevented this by taking a certain pill or a certain kind of other medications to kind of reduce the viral load or reduce a lot of things. But I will say this: there's not enough studies that are true and accurate. And that's the only issue that I have. I mean, I'm vaccinated, Dale's vaccinated because of our own personal choice. It's not that. It's almost like now they're kind of saying, oh, look at you. I mean, the only thing I can get Aaron Rodgers on is that he lied. And he shouldn't have used the word immunized. He should have used something different, because if you feel that you need to wear a mask, you should wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart. Because now, if you, as Dale stated, if he gets sick, he can spread it, and then your whole team is done for. Like, and people who are,
and that's why Jordan Love, he had a press conference a couple of days ago. That's why he had to go to the press conference wearing a mask, because he was in close contact with Aaron Rodgers. Even though Jordan Love is vaccinated, because he was in close contact, he had to wear the mask because he was in close contact with Aaron Rodgers.
And that's the thing that kind of like, I mean, everybody has their own personal opinion. I have it because it's affecting where I kind of work personally. I don't want to get into that, but it's getting to the point where you're on one side or you're not on the other side. And the people who are not on the other side, they have their own reasons why. And you have to kind of like very carefully maneuver around situations where when people say, I don't want to take it, you have to ask them why they don't want to take it. And it should be legitimately their decision, and if it's like this, whatever it's stated to do, if you go into a store and if they say wear a mask, don't be a gung-ho guy, just wear a mask. It's not the end of the world, okay?
Or don't go.
Or just don't go.
Yeah. Or just don't go to the store if you don't want to wear a mask.
Yeah. Just call Uber. You there's so many ways that you can call them to deliver the food to your house. There's so many ways of getting it done, right? And at the end of the day, I don't think that he did anything wrong. The only thing he did wrong is that he lied and he put his team at risk. He didn't do it for the wellness of the team. And that's what it's kind of that's what kind of disappoints me the most, is when you're saying you're a team player, you don't have to go with what people are saying. At least respect the team and say, okay, I'm going to do my part not to get anybody else sick. Because the medicines that you're taking, okay, that's great. I mean, a lot of other scientists and a lot of other doctors say that's okay to do. But if the NFL, you have to look at it as a corporation, right? NFL is a corporation. If they're mandating stuff, yeah, no one likes to be told what to do. But if they're saying that, hey, if you don't want to do this, just wear a mask and then stay away from people, follow those rules. I mean, they're told to you clearly, and just follow it. If you forget one day, okay, we're all human. We all do forget. Say, I'm sorry, carry it, put it on. That's it. But don't lie. And that's one thing he did. He lied about his immunization status, and he could have been like, and he should have gotten tested too. I mean, I'm sorry, like if they say you have to get tested, did he get tested and show a negative test? That's on Green Bay. I mean, that's clearly on Green Bay and the management up there that says, hey, there's rules that the executive order that was brought down by the president said that if you refuse to take it, you have to get a COVID test every 2 weeks or every week that you're there. For government employees too. So it doesn't matter if you're over 100 plus. So I'm thinking that if Green Bay didn't do it, then that's not, shame on them. If they knew about it, shame on them. And I think they did know about it. They didn't want to do anything about it because it's Aaron Rodgers.
You know,
That's what we have to say
absolutely.
about that. You know, see that's why I love this podcast. So you guys gotta remember, we have differences of opinion. It doesn't, and at the end of the day, we're not gonna go each other's throats and be like, oh no, you're wrong or you're wrong. We respect it and say, okay, you know what? It is what it is. It's with anything in life, guys. Like, don't feel that you can't share your opinion and say, oh, and don't force your stuff on other people either. Because if you're forcing things, and that's where like it kind of gets into oh, you did this or you did this, or I don't care about you, this, that. I was like, listen, we're having an open dialogue. Hey, at the end of the day, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I mean, we're men.
Yeah, and I'm not about calling anybody wrong or thinking anybody's opinions are stupid unless you're just flat out factually wrong. If you tell me 1 + 1 is 3, I'm gonna say you're wrong.
Yeah.
But if you tell me, tell me Trump is better than Biden, that's just a matter of, that's your perspective.
Yep.
That's your opinion. You're not wrong. That's just how you think.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say anybody's opinion is wrong. No, I think a way, you think a way. That's how we think.
Yeah, whatever. And as long as you don't hurt anybody, you don't hurt their, like, you don't put anything, then okay, by all means. And of course, First Amendment right, people always want to bring that back out. But if you take it too far, how much is your First Amendment rights, right? You can talk about it, but you can't actually go execute it. I can say a lot of things, Dale can say a lot of things, but as long as you don't act upon them, I think that's okay. But let's lighten the mood, guys. I mean, we talked a little, we went over here. Food. We all love food. So I'm gonna go to you, Dale. I'm gonna go to you. What is the best game day food?
It's really hard to beat pizza. That's generic. I'm a vegetarian, so I can't, say burgers or a nice steak or anything like that. But on a game day, to me, there's nothing better than sitting down with a nice pizza, watching the game, or even throwing some mozzarella sticks in there, or nachos, things like that. Pretty basic, average game day foods, but it's hard to beat. They are the basic generic staples for a reason, because they're the best. But yeah, as far as like stadium foods, I've of course gone to a lot of different stadiums, and I can't remember anything that made anything stand out from anywhere else. I can remember getting like a good grilled cheese at Camden Yards. It had a bunch of crap on it that was pretty good. But as far as like football stadiums, I usually stick to basic pizza or fries, stuff like that.
Yeah, because for me,
what about you, like tailgating and stuff like that? Yeah.
Oh God, tailgating, man. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I think that's better than the game at times. You got so many people out there. Like, you got so many people. I mean, drinks galore, like alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and the food. Like, I'm not a vegetarian, of course. I mean, as big as I am, I know.
At times, you have your times.
I do have my times. I do. I'm slowly switching more vegetarianism as the years have progressed. I mean, age does play a factor in what you can eat and drink. But I'll tell you this: like, when you go to a stadium, it just shows the ingenuity of individuals. Like, in Buffalo, a guy took a file cabinet and you make pizza out of a file cabinet. Who would ever thought that would even work? And it's good pizza. Like,
or something like a guy had a smoker built in a file cabinet and stuff like that too. I've seen and heard stuff like that.
Yeah, and when you go to the Skins game, the Washington football team, you see like big trucks, people cooking on their radiators and stuff. It kind of makes you think about, wow, people actually think about this stuff. It's good engineering feats that you would never even think about. But for me personally, I mean, pizza, wings, a good beverage, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and like nachos got to be at the top. Like I don't know what it is,
No question.
nachos and like pizza. Like Dale and I love pizza. Like I mean, maybe we should just do a whole segment on pizza. Who knows? And there's so many types of pizza.
Right now, what's your number one ranked fast food chain type, like like not fast food but like chain pizza?
Oh, so
Number one
okay,
seed.
number one seed. So back in the day when I was a kid, always was Pizza Hut. I
Mhm.
love Pizza Hut because I don't know what happened. I mean, they had, I don't know if it was the oil, but now the number one fast food pizza joint for me, I would have to say probably Coal Fire. If I have to give something out
Well, they're
because
not. That's not like a national chain though. Like I like Cold Fire, no question. But
oh, you
like I'm
mean like
talking like like the big dogs, like Papa
the big
John, Pizza Hut, Domino's, all.
So I would have to say now I would have to say Pizza Hut's back up there. Pizza Hut,
Yep.
like most recently, like we, I think like in the last like 4 months we had some Pizza Hut, and it's right back up there. Papa John's
Mhm.
is going back down.
It's cardboard crust. I
Yeah,
don't.
Domino's is a close second though. Domino's has,
Domino's is strong.
yeah. I mean,
They
they're
they
thin
changed their
crust.
recipe probably about 7 years ago. They
Yeah,
changed their recipe, and it's that like since then strong.
yeah. I love their thin crust. I don't know what it is.
Mm.
Their thin crust is good. Also, like some things, Paisanos is strong.
Lozano's is strong too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Since I'm a Maryland boy, Lito's Pizza.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
Lito's.
Yuck. I'm anti-Litos,
Why?
and it's because they use provolone.
You don't like provolone
You can
cheese?
put provolone on pizza. It's not that. I love provolone on a sandwich. You better have
Huh,
provolone on it. But
okay.
you can't just use provolone. You can use provolone, but it better be with some mozzarella. It's not
Okay.
pizza if you don't have mozzarella on it.
But they don't
That's
cut corners.
ridiculous.
They don't cut
But they
corners.
don't use mozzarella. I've actually never tried it, and I won't
Okay.
because it doesn't like it's not
Okay.
pizza. If I want
Have
pizza, I
you?
want mozzarella on my pizza.
That's, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, like fresh. Okay, now fresh mozzarella or
Yeah,
grated?
no,
Has to be
melted.
fresh.
I don't care if it's fresh or if it's grated. It has to be melted. I've seen those pizzas that have that
Yep.
unmelted mozzarella, like the fresh
Uh-huh.
mozzarella, and I'm not for that. I'm not down
Have
with
you
that.
have you
No,
tasted fresh mozzarella?
yeah, I have. Mhm.
So you
Yeah,
just
but
want
like
what happens if
mhm.
that's melted on the pizza? Like, let's say they
No,
put it
that's
on
great.
top and then put,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. But
yeah.
I just want it melted. That's it.
Have
I
you
don't
tried
eat like
Marcos?
plain mark. We have them out here. Yeah, I've tried that.
So I've tried it once. I love it. Artie hates it. My wife hates it. She was
Yeah,
like, she's like, it's too much cheese. It's too much salt. And I'm like, I think that's what makes it good.
yeah. It's hard for me to hate a pizza. Even
Yeah,
Papa John's, I don't. It'll never be my first choice. I'll eat it if it's there. I
yeah,
don't hate it, but I would never order it just
yeah.
because that crust is just.
I don't know what it. So I remember back when we were kids, right? Like when Papa John's first came out, it was amazing. Like, oh my God, Papa John. And then
Mm,
Pizza Hut went down to like number 4 for me because they changed the
mm,
oil change or something, and it always made me sick. Oh, I don't know what it was.
mm,
And I never got meat. Like after that instance, I never got like a pepperoni pizza
mm,
after that. And even if I
mm.
wanted to, I make it say well done. But even at that time, I was like, why risk it? So I always get a
Yeah.
vegetarian pizza. But I would say
Mm,
this: there's certain places. Coal Fire has not good pepperoni pizza. I'm sorry, but Coal Fire, I love y'all, but it's not good.
mm,
But it's like when you have to eat like meat or whatever, make sure it's like kind of well done, in my opinion, because it gives it a little bit more of a crisp and a
You
little bit
never
more.
have to eat meat.
I know that. I'm trying to like divert. So it's really funny. Like going back to
Mhm.
the vegetarian, when I first met Dale, um, he was like, I'm a vegetarian. I was like, stop playing, bro. Stop playing. He's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, no, you're not.
He didn't believe a vegetarian could be this portly. But
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
no,
I'm
no,
I'm a thick
not
I'm a
that
thick
for.
vegetarian. I'm a thick vegetarian.
No, I
I
didn't
used to be
believe.
in shape, but believe it or not,
Oh, Dale was
when we
ripped.
met, I was ripped.
He was ripped. I
I
was
was.
like, I mean,
I have the
I
pictures to
was
prove it.
shocked. Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, huh. I was like, so if being a vegetarian can do that, maybe I should try it. But didn't work out too well.
But now I've got now dad bod it. Dad bod is in full effect now. So you can see we're talking about food, not working out. So,
Yeah. Well, you know what the funny thing is?
but
Everything is
my
related,
my
right?
what's up?
No, everything is
Hmm.
related. Like, so I need to start working out again. Like, I tried, like, it's
Me
me.
too.
I'm an old gym rat. Like, me and Dale and I are
Me too.
old gym rats. So it's
Yeah.
like we have that mentality. We just have to go to the gym and work out. Both of our wives, they work out. They look amazing. It's just we got to catch up to them.
Yeah.
I mean, they chose
And
us for a
I
reason.
do work out. It's just out here in this, I mean, right? Out here in this altitude, it's just hard, man. I go to the gym like probably 3 or 4 times a week, but I can't put in I can't go like max all out like I used to in Virginia because like after about, it's lifting, like after like 10, 15 minutes, I'm gasping. When I
Right.
try to run up and down the basketball court, like it's tough, man. And people don't believe it until they come experience it.
Yeah.
But we've gotten off on a tangent. I haven't even given my number one seed
Oh
in
yeah.
chain
Oh yeah.
pizzas. My number, mhm.
What's your
My
number one?
number
Sir?
one is Little Caesars, and it's
Oh
because
wow. Okay.
Little Caesars deep dish is a lot like Pizza Hut's pan used to be. When you said you didn't like it because it was oily and greasy and all that, I loved Pizza Hut's pan pizza when it was like that. They still have their pan pizza, but it's not oily and greasy like it used to be, and
Mm.
therefore they've dropped to the 2 spot, and maybe even tied with Domino's in that 2 spot. Domino's is so flavorful now that it's very solid pizza. So Little Caesars, Pizza Hut, and
Yeah.
Domino's tied at number 2.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what would be number 3, but yeah.
Because I remember Little Caesars wasn't even on back in the day. We used to hate Little Caesars. I used to hate Little Caesars. So I was just like, what the heck is this pizza? But they've improved something. I mean, Detroit pizza is good. I mean, we can just go on a different thing. I mean, okay, let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
Deep dish or New York style?
I can, if I never had New York style again for the rest of my life, I wouldn't miss it. I like it
Really?
because it's pizza, but it's not my favorite. My favorite is you can't beat a nice deep dish pizza. And the
Wow,
Detroit
okay.
style I prefer over the Chicago style.
The
I
little
like
crispy one?
just that oily, crispy crust that
Yeah,
the Detroit style has.
I
Yeah.
agree.
The Chicago deep dishes are solid too, and they'll be my second choice behind the Detroit style, and then New York third. But yeah, I
Me
like that nice.
personally,
The unhealthier the better.
see, for me, like when I went to Vegas for my 40th, we stopped at Giordano's or whatever. And I guess, I mean,
Mhm.
maybe I'm a very rare breed. I did not like that pizza. Maybe put too much, or maybe I got the wrong pizza.
Yeah, Giordano's is not the best. It's not the best deep dish. No, it's not.
Yeah, because
It's
I mean,
good, but it's not the best.
Uno's. I used to love Uno's. I don't
Uno,
know. Yeah,
that's the best deep dish. Uno's
yeah.
the best deep dish.
And around here, unfortunately, they all closed down except for one location.
There's one more. Yep.
Yeah. Is there
One more.
Uno's in Denver or no?
Yeah. There's one out here by the airport, which is like 15 minutes from me. And
Okay.
we've gone there. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I want to, because that's the only deep dish I actually did like. I mean, if I had to compare, because it wasn't too cheesy. It's like it's the perfect amount of cheese, perfect amount of like filling, and perfect amount of tomato sauce. And the sauce what makes the pizza.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good
Yeah.
sauce, you can just say bye bye to the pizza. But I like.
Yeah.
I'm an East Coast guy. I love like that. I have to say, like New York for me is the best. I can just crunch it up and eat it with one hand. But if I had to eat a deep dish, if it's a good deep dish, I wouldn't probably. I wouldn't argue.
Along those lines, I'm sure you've had pizza and Adams Morgan, those giant jumbo slices.
Oh, yeah. So pizza
Those,
bowies.
those might leap over. Like those are right up there in my top spots. I love
bro.
those.
We forgot one thing: Costco pizza.
Costco pizza, strong.
Yeah, Costco.
Strong.
I completely forgot about Costco. If y'all didn't have no Costco pizza, you guys are missing out. Like that's
so good.
It's really good.
I want to go get it now.
Yeah, I know. I was telling the missus, I was like, you got to try Costco, man. Like it. Every time I've had it, every time since I was a kid to now, same taste, same grade. I don't know what they do to it. Like I really don't know. It's same great taste.
It's big and fluffy and hearty and unhealthy, and I just yummy.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. But man, what a I'm just looking for today's college games, man, because right now my Michigan Wolverines they kind of pulled a stinker last Saturday against State. I mean, I was pretty pissed because that State coach was like, "Oh, they're soft. We can beat them." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fighting words. And if it was back the Michigan team back in the 80s and 90s, they would have stomped them. But the way the the moment they lost that game is when they put McCaffrey in and he fumbled that snap to do that read option. I was yelling at the TV because when you're in that close game, you don't take your quarterback out. I'm just sorry. You don't take your starter out to do that. And that shifted momentum. Game was over then. But hopefully today they can win if they're not on a bye. But
Who they got today?
I don't remember who they're playing.
Let's see.
I think they're playing because they play what is it?
They've got Indiana.
Oh yeah.
Indiana today. That's a win. That's a big one.
I don't know, man. Is it an evening game?
No, the Hoosiers are 2-6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 5:30 my time.
Oh, 5:30 your time. Okay, so yeah, because I'm only caring about the Ohio State game. If they can beat Ohio State, I that loss to Michigan State, I'm blah blah away. I'll be.
You should go to the Maryland game on the 20th.
That's our that's good. That's our anniversary thing, so I won't be in town. So I got to decide on where to go and stuff. So it's a big 5 years, man. 5 years. So that's a whole hand. Yeah, it's a whole hand. So,
just flew by. Yeah, like feels like it was yesterday.
It was like yesterday. It's just like all these teams, right? Like you have what's your opinion on people with two different teams? Like I know it's different for you, but what I'm saying is like yeah,
I've got a lot of teams.
Right, but let's say if one person, if you because it's warranted, right? In certain situations, it's warranted. I'm not going to say that, but let's say like you're a huge Tampa Bay fan. And that individual that you like goes to another team. Do you get two jerseys of that guy, or do you still be loyal to your team?
When it comes to guys like generational legends like Tom Brady, if you were a New England fan when he was there, and then you follow him to Tampa, I get that 100%. Even I'll give the LeBron guys a pass to the guys who follow him from team to team. But if you're like just a fan who doesn't have like a legendary player that you follow, and say and I've seen, believe it or not, I've heard people who are Washington football teams fans and Cowboys fans. That is not acceptable. That doesn't make any sense. People who like the Red Sox and Yankees, like you need to get your life together. Come on now, like stuff like that doesn't make sense. Like you need some help. And I've heard of these scenarios, and they just make no sense, just nonsense. So I know you have strong opinions on that. So we've discussed this.
Yeah, we have. The reason why I bring that back up is because of what's happening in the generation of sports. Is because for me, it's all about trust. If you got two different teams and you're rooting for two different teams, I can't just trust you. I'm sorry, I just can't. Because
can't trust you.
I mean, where is your allegiance? Where is your so when it comes, I'll say for college sports, right? I like Michigan football and Maryland basketball. It is what it is. And when Maryland plays Michigan, I'll root for Michigan because that's how I grew up. When I was a kid, I love Michigan football, and I'm not going to change my allegiance. When it comes, because back then it was the ACC and the Big Ten, so I never imagined they would play together until a couple of years ago. So I was kind of torn, but I stick to my roots. What I do. If they play in basketball, I root for University of Maryland because that's what I grew up in. You know, it's Maryland. I'll just go for Maryland basketball. When it comes to football, I mean, I don't know if it's since it's two different sports. Do I get a pass? Probably not. But I don't root against them. I just can't.
See, your dual allegiance is explained though. That makes sense. I mean, that's just how you grew up. Some people have weird dual allegiances that they can't explain, doesn't make any sense. And those people I don't trust. They probably cheat on their wives. I mean, they lie on their taxes. They probably steal, they shoplift. I mean, who knows? You can't trust these people. They just no.
No, because when I was at a Caps game, right? Me and the Miss were at a Caps game. The guy was wearing a Boston. He's like, "Yeah, I'm a Caps." I'm like, "That's cool." I was like, "I can't trust people with two different jerseys. I just can't." And he just gave me this look, and I'm like, "Well, what's up with this homeboy?" And then he had a Boston jersey on it. I was like, "How are you going to wear a Boston jersey and a Caps?"
Explain yourself.
Explain yourself. It's like that's a rivalry. Like it's like if I wear a Pens hat and a Caps jersey, I'll get jumped. It's just the same thing. Yeah. It's like if you were Denver, if you were the Broncos in a Raider hat, you'll get jumped. I mean, come on. It's not like I mean, it's just I can't trust you. And when I said that,
Makes no sense.
it makes no sense to me. Like my mind can't process that, and that's why.
See, and I can wear a Broncos jersey and a Chargers hat, and I can explain that my brother played for both teams.
Exactly.
I mean, they're rivals, but I have an explanation.
Yeah, but see, there's always exceptions to rules like that because when he played for both teams, you have to, of course, root for the team that your brother's playing on. I mean, just common sense. Yep. You can't be like, oh, I'm not going to root for you. I'm going to root for the team.
When the Chargers came here to play, and he was with the Chargers, I wore his Broncos jersey to that game, even though he was playing for the Chargers. Yeah. I mean, and I can, that's just, I still root for the Broncos. I like the Broncos before he got drafted to him. So when he got drafted to him, because I was always a Shanahan fan, I just loved his offense. Back to the Elway Super Bowls, I just loved his offense. So when he got drafted here by that coach, and so when he got drafted by them, that was awesome. I was very happy about that.
Yeah, so he played for the team that you grew up like you. That's see now that is something like that's why I root for Patterson from the Rochester football team because he grew up a fan of that team, and now playing for your hometown team is something kind of dream come true. That's pretty cool, man. I didn't know about that. That's something new I learned today about Dale. So guys, you want to wrap this up, sir, or you want to go for one more segment?
What do you got in mind?
Well, game day and haircuts. Game days and haircuts. So the reason why I have this last segment as game days and haircuts is when you see from where people started changing their look from professional to I have no idea what they're doing now. Like wearing suits in the NFL.
The players, as far as the players?
Yeah, players. So if you look at the NHL, everybody wears a suit, looks very professional, walks in, dapper don and going cool. Football, same way. Basketball, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of things. So when you look at the younger generation who are growing up now, right? When they see that, what do they kind of feel like? Do they see that, oh, I need to get my hair done, my look, because I got a fresh look too, I got it trimmed up a little bit, hair and everything, And then I'm like thinking to myself, does that make you play better? And does that feed into your game? If you look good, you feel good, you play good.
See, the way the NFL players do it is when they're on the road, they have to wear a suit. No, they just that's the uniform on the road. Got to come in the stadium with a suit. At home, you can do whatever you want. And I think I feel like for me personally, if I'm wearing a suit, I feel like I'm working. I'm a professional. I feel like I'm locked in when I'm in a suit. If I just wore anything, I wouldn't have that same kind of mindset. So for me, if I was a coach, I'd require a suit. I don't know that I would require a clean cut because I've had braids and I've had like crazy hairstyles too. So I'd be probably more relaxed in that area. Even like beards and facial hair, I'd probably be more relaxed. But if I'm gonna let you get away with that, then I want you clean. I want the suit and tie, home and away. That's me. For me, I'm a suit guy. Before I gained all this weight, I wore suits like every day. So I'm all about suits.
Now going back to the playing thing, I'm gonna rewind a little bit. Now you think the way Westbrook is playing is the way he's dressing?
See, he's always been outlandish in his dress, and he averaged a triple-double for 3 or 4 straight seasons. I mean, so I think
bad comparison.
For me, I think the way he's just goes back to impressing.
Yeah. So the reason why I said haircut and game days is when I'm looking at it, it's like, do these younger generation players understand that, is it okay to wear some lavish stuff for business, or is it okay? Because, not a lot of them will make the pros. They probably want to set a good example. And I'm just thinking, like, does that affect the way younger generations think about if I have to go in for an interview, do I have to go in a suit or do I go into something like, in a casual environment?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it does. Because like young people idolize these players. So when they see them doing it, they're going to want to do it too. So, they're definitely setting an example. And I've heard horror stories of interviews of people just showing up and whatever. And so, of course, those people aren't going to get the job. You can come in and have all the answers in an interview, but you don't present yourself well. And that's a matter of perspective too, what's presenting yourself well. But the standard is presenting yourself for an interview is a suit. So you have to know that you can't emulate the guys you idolize going into a situation like that. I mean, even if you're interviewing for like a pro sports job, you gotta step forward with that presentable look and that type of environment. Presentable means a suit. So it's just what it is. No matter what you see on TV.
That's true. Good topics for today, I think, and I hope
Yes, indeed.
I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. We will post this once the editing kind of gets done with the first episode and second episode, and that's what we're learning is how to edit and how to cut and things,
kind of and everything else too.
And everything else too.
It's all a learning process.
It's all a learning process for
honing and refining.
Yes. So hopefully we should have this up by the next couple of months. Hopefully, once we get a good kind of podcast going, and once you guys can see the first episode, and some are hour longs, and we're just kind of talking. We're just giving the numbers out. So when we do go live on like YouTube Live or Facebook Live, call in. But for right now, hopefully this podcast was entertaining, was eventful, kind of insightful. We hope to have something in the near future with a little bit better, background music, but everything takes time. We're learning as we're going, as well stated. And
this is the beginning of greatness.
Yes. As we say, HND, high def. So when
high def, talking hats and high def.
Talking hats and high def. So I hope you guys enjoyed our podcast. Peace and love, and you guys be safe on today's day. So for us, we're signing off. You guys have a good evening, a good peace out, and have a great day.